So this is what we're going to talk about this evening. Cool. So we'll start off talking about websites and why you might want a website. Some general ideas of costs, some general ideas of how to set one up, some examples of places you might be able to do that, and a little bit about analytics, hopefully. And then we'll talk more about social media, which a lot of people I've noticed have ditched websites and gone just to social media. Could be fine. It depends on who your audience is. And I think with digital communications, just like with any kind of communications, really, it's all about your audience. You think it's about you because it's your website or your social media, but it actually has nothing to do with you. It's all about your audience. So if you make yourself a website that you think is amazing, that's good. But if no one that you are trying to sell to or get your work shown to can see it or identifies with it at all, then it really doesn't do much. It's kind of pointless to get it out in the world if no one else wants to look at it. So it is always, always, always about your audience. So my role, as Stacey mentioned at the beginning at Council, is digital communications officer. So I am roughly in charge of the website and social media with a team of other people. And so it's not just me. The biggest thing that I tell people in different departments is to think about your audience all the time, all the time. If you're not thinking about them, you're not doing it right. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So then I'll give you a chance to ask questions after we talk about websites, because there might be something that comes up that's really pertinent for you there. And then the second part will be about social media. So we'll talk a little bit about the three big players. Obviously, there's way more than that. And if you have questions about other specific ones, feel free to save those to the end. But I'll go through them just to make sure everybody knows what they look like. We'll talk a little bit about meaningful posting. And that's when we'll talk more about your audience and why you should worry more about them than yourself. And then we'll talk a little bit about ads and getting paid reach versus organic reach, which might be terms you've heard of. Maybe you never didn't know what they meant. To be honest, sometimes I'm not even quite sure, because Facebook's really complicated sometimes. I think it's easy, but sometimes it's not. And I say it's complicated, but you also can't mess it up. So feel free to just get in there and give it a go. And then we'll talk a little bit briefly at the end about social media management tools. And if you're raring to go and you want to start posting lots of things in lots of different places, they can help you do that. And then the end will be all about you asking me. So see how we go. There we go. All right. So just quickly, an overview of websites. One of the first things that people ask is how much? How much does it cost to do a website? And that's a how long is a piece of string kind of question. It can be free or cheap, or it can be thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, depending on how much you really want to spend. I'm pretty sure that none of us in this room tonight have tens of thousands of dollars to spend on a website, so you don't have to worry about that. It depends on a few factors. One would be who's building the website. If it's you doing it, great. There's free work, free labor right there. One is who's hosting the website. So there's some places that you can build a website and host it at the same time. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means in a second. Another factor in how much a website costs is what sort of functionality you want. So if you have artwork that you want to sell through your website, there's going to be an extra cost to that. Most places you can't do that for free. You could, but most of the time that'll be an extra cost on top of it. Other functionality like how many pages you have. A lot of the free sites are limited to, say, 5 pages. For many of us, that's enough. For many, that's not enough. So that's just something you have to keep in mind. And then your domain name, which kind of goes along with hosting. Some websites, like one we'll talk about is Wix. You can get a free web address through Wix, but it has their name in it too. So it would be, wix.sabrinalunn.com, perhaps. I don't know exactly what it would be, but so those are some things to think about when you think about how much you want to spend creating your Facebook page. And when you are going to build it, you talk about building a website. It's not quite as easy as hammering nails, but it can be pretty easy. And there's a number of different web builders you can use for that, which I'll talk about in a second. But you kind of need two things to have a website. One is a way to build the site, so to actually create the pages, and one is someone to host that site. If you're really super, technically advanced, then you can host your own site. I don't know how that works, so please don't ask that question later. But I'll show you. We'll get to it now. Actually, there's any number of websites out there that make it free or pretty inexpensive to host your own website. Some of them are in Australia, some of them are outside of Australia. Some of them are really specific on the types of websites you can build with them, and some of them leave it completely open. The first one you see there, the lady with the dog, the cute poochie, that's GoDaddy. And they're an American site. That one says GoDaddy Australia, but the thing that I love about GoDaddy, I've used GoDaddy for a number of sites in the past, and I really, really love their customer service. I actually had to call them not long ago, like within the past week and a half, to get some help with the website because I couldn't get in, and I had to wait like on hold for a while. And I'm sitting there telling my husband, like, this is so weird. I've never had to wait for a GoDaddy website. You can call them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and someone will pick up the phone and like you dial one number, and then you get a human being who has never failed to answer any questions I have. So I love GoDaddy in that respect, because even if you don't know what you're doing, you can call someone and they will either walk you through it or they'll just do it for you, which is great. So that's a really good one for people who are maybe a little bit afraid of websites. Squarespace is another one that makes it pretty simple. It's a little bit more restricted in the type of website that you can build, but it's a very common one to use. Same with Wix. We've used Wix for a number of council sites for certain things. So just a number of people, and it's pretty easy to set up. And then WordPress. You've probably heard of WordPress before if you've done any work on websites or you've had a website. There's two different kinds of WordPress, which is really confusing. I've attempted to use WordPress a couple of times, many years ago. So I should probably stop being a little weenie pants and try it again, because it's probably a lot easier, especially now that I know a little bit more what I'm doing. But something about it just wasn't clicking for me. I couldn't quite figure it out. But I know tons of people who swear by WordPress. It started off mostly as just a blog website, but now you can do anything with it. And when I say there's two WordPresses, there's WordPress.com and WordPress.org. And in the notes that I'll send out in a little bit, or that I'll have Stacy send out after this, there is a list of how to choose the best website builder, and it explains the difference between WordPress.org and WordPress.com. I won't go into it now, but you can figure it out then. So just since we've come full circle, going back to GoDaddy, and I'll use that as an example because we were talking about costs. So I had a website through GoDaddy for a while for my photography business, sort of a little side hustle I have. And I don't have it now because I wasn't really focusing on it, and it wasn't worth it to me, but it was free for me to build it. I paid maybe $10 a year for my domain name, so it wasn't much. And then I paid about $120 to host the site. Sorry, just checking. Somebody said they don't have sound. So if anybody else doesn't have sound, I guess you don't know that I'm asking you to let us know. Hopefully everybody else does have sound. Thumbs up, definitely has sound. Yeah. Cool. I'll just take your word for it. Because I'll just keep talking to myself otherwise.
You're still going as far as I can see there, Sabrina. So yeah, should be right.
Perfect. Thank you. So it is not free to get exactly what you want, but you can get the free version, like I said. So we can talk about that more later if you have more questions about it. And like I said, the PDF that I'll have Stacy send out afterwards will have a link on this page in the notes section. It's just a web page that I found that sort of tells you about the different kinds of web builders. I'm sure there's a million other articles just like it, so I don't necessarily endorse it, but there you go. So add-ons, I mentioned a little bit ago that we would talk about add-ons to the website and what that meant. So just like you all have different tools depending on which type of art you are doing, your website can have different tools as well. So I mentioned that you might want to have an e-commerce site where you can sell your work directly through your website. There's other options that are, free for that or less expensive. It just depends on exactly what it is you are looking for and how custom you want it to be, or how, I don't want to say how professional you want it to be, but you can sell things through Etsy or Made It, which is fine. But if you want it to be really specific, people come to your site and they go directly to your shop and no one else, they don't see other suggestions, and that would be something you might want to build into your website. Because not all websites and not all those website builders will do everything that you want, but most of them have the option to add those things on. And sometimes they could be free to add them on, and sometimes they'd be paid. So like something that you would just pay a little bit extra for. GoDaddy, for example, I think if you have an e-commerce site, you do pay a little extra for that. So, but those 4 sites that I told you about before are used to people coming to them for websites who might not have as much experience. So it's usually pretty clearly laid out. And again, somebody like GoDaddy, if you call them, they'll walk you through it and explain it really well. Other things that you might want to add onto your website is Eventbrite. So maybe you're running events, or you've got something, you've got a showing or a viewing somewhere. You might want to add an Eventbrite add onto your website so people can just sign up or buy tickets or reserve their tickets. And then YouTube is another add-on, which often we just embed a YouTube video into your website, but that could be something really good to help engage with your, people who really like your work by doing videos of you creating the work. Because I see things that are beautiful all the time. I think, how on earth did they do that? So that's a great way to help engage your audience. So we'll get on that a little bit more with social media. And then the last thing I wanted to mention with websites is analytics. What you're looking at right now is actually Surf Coast Shire Council's website analytics. April, I think that enormous spike that you see there was sort of when everything shut down for all the council services changed. Very weird time that we're in. But you can see, you can add something like Google Analytics, which is the #1 analytics tool, to your website. It's free. It's not super hard to do. Again, your customer service people at whatever web builder you choose can help walk you through that. Or Google, I love to Google things like, how do you add Google Analytics to a Wix website? And I guarantee you'll find an article walking you through step by step. So it's really easy. Highly recommend you just Google stuff if you can't figure out how to do it. It's pretty much what I do all the time. So you can find out so much about the people who access your site using analytics, not just like where they live and if they're male or female, but how long they stayed on each page, what page they're going to the most. This particular one is basically March through the end of May that you're looking at right now, and in that time we had like over 200,000 visits to our website. And so I'm just trying to look really close. Like, what is that? Like 40,000 of them were coronavirus related questions, but just on the 2 main pages. So we have lots of coronavirus pages, so it may have gone to different ones. So yeah, so it's really interesting to be able to see where people are going, how long they're spending on your page, where they go after they go to that page. How did they get there? Did they come through a Facebook post, or did they come because they Googled, artists in the Surf Coast, or I need a painting for my mother for her birthday, or whatever it might be. You'll know how they got there. You'll know if they're using phones or computers to access your site. You can find out so much about it. And it's really, really, really important, going back to, it's not about you, it's about your audience and the people that you want to be reading this material. It's really important to understand how they interact with your website and with your social media. And so putting Google Analytics on your page is highly recommended. And again, it's a free thing you can do. Google Analytics, somebody has asked if they take a % of sales. I don't know if that's asking about Google Analytics or e-commerce sites, but Google Analytics is completely free. E-commerce, I guess it depends on the e-commerce site. So I haven't used them, so I'm not sure. Most of the work I've done on websites has been for people who aren't selling, who aren't selling anything at all. So don't think so. Usually, like somebody, like a place, going back to GoDaddy, just because I've used that one a few times, so I'm a bit more familiar, but you pay a yearly fee to access their e-commerce builder, and then that's it. So, but somebody like Etsy or Made It might. I'm not exactly sure. Good question. So we're going to move on to social media platforms now, but I just wanted to see if anybody else had any other questions. So feel free to type them in the chat, in the group chat, if you do have questions right now about websites. Otherwise, we'll move on to social media and talk a little bit more about that. Just waiting a second in case anybody is like frantically typing or punching out things with fingers. Sometimes I do that. Cool. Yep, we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions too, so keep them. Cool. Social media, which everybody on here is probably familiar with on some level. A lot of you earlier said that you already have Instagram or Facebook pages, so you're probably pretty clear on how they work. So that's good. Cool. Sorry, I'm just thinking about the logistics of this presentation, but it'll be fine. So this little quote up here. In the past, you're talking about typical PR campaigns. They're made to be in your face and create a sense of urgency and get you to, buy their thing or be a part of their group or whatever it is you might want. But with social media, I think people expect it to still be that way. They still want it to be, because social media is so quick. So I can put up a post and everyone sees it, or I can get information really quickly from people. But you don't actually grow your following that quickly. It's about a long-term dedication. So actually planning out what you're going to post over the course of the month. Sitting down in an afternoon, creating a whole bunch of posts and scheduling them in so that it's a constant flow. Not overwhelming people. You don't want to throw it all in their face. You don't want to be like, oh God, that person is posting again. We all are members of some page or group that posts all the time. It's just like, oh, I can't listen to any more of that. But you still want to be really regular with it. And I think the thing with social media, it's the same with websites, but in that you can't just like set and forget. You can't set it up and then walk away from it. But with websites, they're a little bit more static. So here's my static information that's not changing. My contact details, where you can buy my stuff, how I make my stuff, my favorite other artists that I'm connecting with, whatever. That can all be fairly stagnant. But with social media, you really are expecting it to change and evolve over time and to be interactive. I mean, it's called social for a reason. It's not just you post something and you walk away. You really need to make sure that you're engaging with your audience and the people who are following you, and doing so in a meaningful way, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's why social media, even though you think it's fast and quick and things happen so rapidly in the social media world, it's still a slow, steady trickle. You still want to sort of get involved with people in a way that suddenly they're like, oh, I really love this page that I follow. I really love this person who does this work. And they kind of don't remember getting there at one point. So we'll look at some platforms. We're going to look at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and I'll give you some examples, not only talk about how they work, but show you some pretty good examples from our world. So first we'll chat a little bit about Instagram. We've use the beautiful Natalie Martin's Instagram page as an example here. You can see she's done a great job of everything. We'll actually go to her page in just a second, but Instagram in general is really popular for creatives. I think you'll notice when you were telling me which social media you use, a lot of you said Instagram. I said I wasn't at all surprised by that, because Instagram relies heavily on beautiful photos. And who has the most beautiful photos? Creative types, right? We all have the most beautiful photos because we actually care about what things look like. So even if you make a beautiful painting, you're not just going to take a crap photo of it and stick it up and be like, oh, there's that painting, whatever. And you're going to make sure it's lit well and the background looks kind of nice and everything's kind of beautiful to look at. And that's how you gain followers on Instagram, that people want things that are beautiful. It does have an option for videos, and it used to be pretty short, like they could only do 30-second videos, but now there's Instagram TV, which I haven't used personally, but I've watched plenty of them there, and that's for much longer form videos, which makes it really easy. You can use hashtags. So hashtags started with Twitter, but have become popular across platforms, but mostly with Instagram and Twitter now. And that's a way of sort of categorizing your information so that people can find it. So we'll talk a little bit about hashtags when we look at Natalie's page. And that's another way that you can follow people who have the same interests as you. So you can search for hashtags, and there's like endless number of hashtags. So let's take a little walk around Natalie's page. I'm just gonna see how to do this. I'm just gonna stop real quick this sharing, because I think I want to do that instead. And pause. Technical. And there. All right, so we should all be seeing Natalie Martin's Instagram page now. Just to make sure I can see my chat so that Harriet/Stacy can give me a yep, can see Natalie's Instagram. So when you look at someone else's, thanks guys, when you look at someone else's Instagram, this is what you can see. So she's put her logo up at the top, which is great when you have so many cool things to show that you just can't put one image up there. And I would say that that's her signature logo there. You can see how many posts and how many follows. I'm going to follow her because apparently I haven't, but I love her stuff, so that works out well. And that's how you can message people, and yeah. So at the top of each Instagram, same with Twitter, you've got this option for like a little bio or a description about what you do. And she's done a great job because she's used emojis, which, I mean, grab people's attention way more than just a block of text. She's done really well at using really short descriptions to say who she is. So art and design, Surf Coast, here's my email, here's one of my web pages that'll help you find workshops and classes. So it works really well to get your attention. And she's also put at the very top this new online course. Now, I'm gonna just assume that it's fairly up to date. I haven't checked to see if that is still new, but that's a really good example of keeping things up to date with social media, because it says new online course, welcome to watercolor. What if that course, I'm going to assume it's pretty new because it's an online course. People aren't having in-person courses right now. But what if that was actually last year and somebody went here, well, oh, her stuff's so beautiful, and then said, oh, a new online course, I'm going to go check it out, and then go and find out it was actually 12 months ago. Automatically, my feelings about this Instagram page would drop, because suddenly I don't trust anything that's on there. I don't think it's new. I don't think it's relevant to me. I can hear some little people in the background that are going to bed, peeking in to see what they can see. But I think in Natalie's case, she's probably got it up to date, because she has almost 10,000 followers. You don't get that many followers without actually keeping things going. And then you can she's got some categories up here. Instagram will suggest some other people to me based on the things that I like. And this is based on what other people who follow Natalie like, or what Natalie likes, or people who are in the same sort of category as her. And then I can see all of her images. Now, if we just sort of slowly scroll through images here, you'll see they're all amazing. And, you know, if she just took an up-close picture of all of her artwork, it would probably still be amazing. But she's also thrown in this picture. Look, 239 people like that picture because it's a beautiful double rainbow. I'm assuming that's her property. You know, she's done like a selection of prints together. This is what I mean by, as creatives, we're not going to just throw up a picture just to be like, oh, here's this artwork I did. We're going to make an effort to make it a really beautiful picture. I love this one because it's showing, and so did a lot of other people, it's showing her doing some work and what it might look like. And you actually feel like you're sitting with her on the banks of this dam with her paints all over the place and seeing what she sees in that nature. To some people, that's just a mud pit, but to her, it ends up in this explosion of color. So it's really lovely how she's done this. There's a picture of her in her studio. So there's quite a variety here, which makes it more interesting for people to look at her work. And it goes on and on and on, probably for a really long time. We can see she's done 1,300 posts. So obviously she posts a lot. Cool. So that's Natalie's. Let me go back here. It's working so well. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention about Instagram off the bat. Got my notes here. Yeah, sorry. So I didn't really mention the hashtags, but I'll just pick one at random here. I'll go to this one because I liked it so much. Let's see if Natalie's using hashtags for much. No, she hasn't used one with this, but she could have chosen to put in hashtag painting, hashtag dam, hashtag nature, hashtag color, whatever it is, and that helps you get more reach. I'm going to admit it out loud right now. My cat has his own Instagram page. He's very cute and he does funny things, but one of the things I always hashtag on there is cats of Instagram. And by the time I have posted and I go to look at recent posts, there's like another 20 posts that have been posted in the last 3 seconds since I've done it. So many people post on that one. So you can do something like color, which will get thousands of posts at any time, or you could do something like sitting on the banks with my paint, which probably doesn't have anyone else that has done that. So you can use hashtags in a lot of different ways, and we'll talk about them more later if people have questions. I'm just going to search color right now so we can see what kind of hashtags come up. If I search color, it actually gives me lots of options for people with color in their name. So that's another way to find people that are sort of same. Look, there's a hashtag color. Here we go. Hashtag color. So there's 28 million posts where people have put hashtag color. So it's a way to get your stuff noticed. Maybe I really like color, so I'll just look at it in advance. I have no idea what we're going to find, so beware if you have small children there. It should be fine, really. So I might be like, ooh, I actually like that. And then I can click in and see that. So that's a way for people like, oh, now I want to follow Forrest Bake because that looks amazing. So that's a way that people use hashtag to get their work seen. Just coming back to here. Cool. Facebook. Most people have, I'm assuming a lot of people who are on here tonight have used Facebook because we're maybe that little bit older. No, there could be some younger people here. Sorry if you hear any screeching in the background. It's small children. Facebook is sadly more popular for the older demographic. It was my generation. I take no credit for it. My generation is the one that started it. So it's sort of like us and people older than us that like it. The kids these days, they don't care about Facebook very much. My nephew has a Facebook page. He's 20. And sometimes I tag him in things, but he never sees it because he is not on it. It exists, but he's not on it. So there's a few different ways to use Facebook. Most of us probably have a personal profile, and that personal profile is where we share pictures of our kids and pictures of what we ate for dinner or the school cafe that we went to or our holidays with our close friends and family. Highly recommended you keep that separate from your business persona or your artist persona. And the way you do that is by using your profile is sort of the master. So that's me as Sabrina. I have a profile, which I'm connected to my close friends and family. And then my profile can create a page or a group. And then that page or group can be public, or you can set it up so people have to be invited or asked to join it or whatever it might be. But those people can be anyone. So an example of that is my father. He writes a column in the United States about old cars, and he did not do the right thing, probably because his daughter lives halfway around the world and didn't tell him off when he first started it. But he started, meeting people. He writes a newspaper column weekly about classic cars, and he goes to events and he does some presentations and things. So he would start giving people his Facebook page, and then they'd start joining his Facebook page. And then there was no untangling that anymore, because he was now friends with all these people he shouldn't be friends with. But if you have your personal page and then you make a separate either group or page that public people can join, you can give that to anyone. It does get a little bit confusing, but once you've got it, you've got it. So page is a public profile. So you've got your profile, so we'll keep that over here. Then you can make a page off of that, which is a public version of you, right? So the one that we're looking at on the screen is my friend and also my family photographer, Michelle McKay, who lives in Geelong. And I have her here because we'll talk a little bit more about her later. She's a gun at social media, so we'll get to the stuff that she's done. But she has her personal profile, which is her name, and then she has her page, which is what you're looking at, which is her name, photographer. And it's public, and anyone can see it, anyone can access it, anyone can post on it, or however she's set it up. That way her personal life stays personal and public life stays public. And then you can also create a group. So another thing that we'll look at in a second from Michelle is she has a group. So she, as a photographer, uses some presets that she has set up herself, and she's sold them and has started a group. So if you buy her presets, then you can actually, even if you're just interested in the presets, you don't have to buy them, but you can join this group of people who use them. And but it's almost more secluded. Like, you have to join the group. It's, she doesn't charge people to join it. It's fair. And it's sort of a collection of people who have a similar interest. Whereas this page is for her whole audience. So people who might be interested in her work, or who want to hire her to do their family photos, or are just, peers that want to watch what she's doing, can all be on here. And then the group is for people who have an interest specifically in those presets. So again, ask me later if you want more questions, or if you have more questions about that. So Facebook does have the option not only for video, which is highly recommended with Facebook, but to do live video. So if you're brave enough, set up in your studio, get your live video going. You can set up a watch party. That video can stay on or not afterwards. So I know when a lot of musicians were starting to do private at-home shows once everyone got locked down in their houses. Some of them would keep that music up on their Facebook page so you could continue to watch it as long as you wanted. But some would say, like, I've got this concert, we're doing it, it's going to be up for 24 hours afterwards, and then it's gone. I'm pretty sure that's how the Sound Doctor ones are working right now, that they're putting out the waiting room. I think it'll be up for about 24 to 48 hours, and then it's done. So it creates that sense of exclusivity. Like, if I want to watch this Sound Doctor show, I need to sit when they tell me to. So yeah, cool. Just reading. Harriet has asked me to be a little bit more specific on how you differentiate when people want to friend you. So my personal profile, I would only friend people who I am actually friends with, or family members with. The people who I wouldn't mind seeing a picture of my kid in the swimming pool. But again, I could do a whole 4-hour session on like the privacy things related to Facebook. If my friend can see it, there's no reason they can't screenshot it and send it to their friend. Or if I tag a friend in it, then their friends can also see it. So you just have to keep in mind, like, never put anything on Facebook, even if you have your account locked down to private, that you wouldn't mind the whole world seeing. So keep that in mind. But if I met someone in the street who really liked my work and they said, oh, can I friend you on Facebook? I would say, actually, no, it's for my close friends and family, but here is my business page and you're welcome to follow my business page. So how you get them to the right page is usually, you could put it on your business card, or however you do it. So my personal one is probably facebook.com/Sabrina Lunn. Not exactly sure, but my business one is different. It says facebook.com/Circle Studio. So it has actually a different address, so you can provide that to them. Sorry, back to the notes. So yes, there's options for live video. Video does really well on Facebook, and Facebook gets a little bit funny with who they show stuff to. So you have to really keep going and get people interacting with your page for more people to see your page. And the same goes with videos. It just helps to boost your profile a little bit as far as Facebook's concerned. And look, some people get really cranky when Facebook changes their algorithms, and they also don't tell anybody a lot of the details. But like, on one hand, fair enough. On the other hand, it's a free platform. They can do what they want with it. So I'm not a client of Facebook's. I'm using their service and actually providing them with a lot of advertising money. Yeah, there's a thing called content creator now on Facebook, which is how you can create posts. I haven't used it much because it's just started. It's just launched not long ago. But it also means you can create something there and link it to Instagram. So Facebook now owns Instagram. They're one and the same. So if you're ever like, oh, I'm on Instagram, but I would never put my information on Facebook, you are. And that's pretty typical of most online platforms. If you're online, you're online. So you can, through content creator, link to both. And we'll talk more about social media managers in a minute. I think I started to mention this earlier, but just to be a little bit more clear about it. Once you post things on Facebook, you're expected to respond. You don't have to respond to every comment that everyone says, but you can. And by responding, people feel really important, especially if you have, like, going back to Natalie, she has 10,000 people that follow her on Instagram. If people make a comment, oh my God, that work's so beautiful. If she says, thank you so much, that really means a lot to me. That person is just like, oh, Natalie just responded to me. They'd be so excited about that. I know it sounds weird, but even with counsel, which, people aren't enamored by counsel sometimes, but we do get a lot of comments and we can't respond to all of them. But if here's some secret squirrel business. If somebody asks us a direct question, that's usually our rule. Like, if people are just commenting, even if they're having a little whinge about something, unless they specifically say, can you tell me the answer to this question, we'll usually just let them have a vent, because that's what they want to do. But if they're asking a question, we'll always respond to them. And I found that a lot with, I've been helping the waste team with the new bins that are going to be coming out now next year. And, people get really upset about one of the changes. But if we go in and respond and explain it to them, so the bins were, the new waste system was supposed to be rolled out in July. But because of the coronavirus, we've moved it back. And you can't just move it back a few months because it's council elections. And you can't move it a few months past that because it's summer. Don't ever start that in the summer. So we've had to move it to early next year. And some people were really upset. But if we took the time to explain, this is why we've made that decision. And I was waiting for some backlash. Ooh, it can be really painful because now we've engaged. But most of the time they said, thank you for explaining that. That really made it, really makes sense. You're like, oh, so people really like to be heard. Not that I'm expecting a lot of cranky people on your sites, but if they manage to say something, then it's really good if you can reply to it. Even a little like, you know, if you've been on someone who you admire their page and you've commented and they like it, it's always like, oh, so-and-so liked my page. It's really exciting. So yeah, it's expected with social media that there's a social element, not just with the people who are following you, but that you'll respond, that you'll answer questions, and that you'll do so in a reasonable amount of time. When you have messaging set up, so you'll see here, I can send Michelle a message through her page. If you're not on Facebook every day, then set that message so that if somebody sends you a message, it says, hi, I check these messages a couple of times a week. Give them really clear expectations so they don't have to be wondering, when will she write me back? I want to hire her. When is she going to write me back? If you say, I only check my messages on here a couple times a week. I'll get back to you as soon as I do. That'll help them be like, great, I can wait until then. It also helps because Facebook will remind you, like, so-and-so is still waiting for an answer, and they try to get you to respond quickly, because that's what social media is about. It's about responding quickly and being connected to people who you might not be connected to. A lot of Michelle's followers, especially in that group that she has for her presets, they're overseas. Like, there's a lot of people in the US and even the UK and other places. And so sometimes she has to come back and say, sorry, I didn't get back to you right away, but you know, I'm in Australia, so our times are all kind of weird. And she says that all the time publicly so that other people then know, oh, great, yeah, that's why she didn't reply to me right away. So setting that auto response is really, really good to do. Cool. So I'll just show you a little bit about, I'll show you Michelle's page, just so you have, if I can get to it. There's a message for me. Cool. So this is exactly what we looked at earlier. She's used, this is what's called your cover photo at the top, and it is pretty strict on the ratio. So if you put a vertical picture in, it's going to blow it up and crop it kind of weird. She's chosen to use a lot of images, and by looking at this, you get a really good idea of the type of photographer she is and what she likes to do. You know that you're not going to get bright, happy, sunshiny pictures of girls in a green dress in a field of canola, whatever. You know exactly what you're going to get home. You're going to get family. You're going to get closeness. You're going to get lots of squishy babies. You're going to get dark, moody colors and tones. All those things you know right away by looking at her site. So or by looking at her Facebook page. So make sure that your page reflects exactly who you are. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Yep. I don't know. I think you guys all know how Facebook works, so I won't show you too much about it. I will show you, we'll get to that one in a second, actually. Yeah, I'll come back here and we'll look at, I mentioned Creator Studio. Apparently you can do it with an app too. I've never used the app, so I don't even want to pretend to know that I can help you with that. Yeah, thanks. But this is what it looks like for creating a post. So this is back on Council's Facebook page, so for Shire Council. You can see some posts that we've done in the last, those don't really seem right. This is connecting to Instagram, right? There's so many things here to do. It would take 3 more hours to explain, and for me to figure it all out. So, that content library. So it's all, it's all here. It's all in one place. I think it should be easier, but it might actually be trickier. Who knows? Cool. We'll come back to Michelle in a minute. And then there's Twitter. So this is the third one that I'll talk about. It's a great place to connect, especially with media, because journalists are on the platform. So if you want to get seen by media, Twitter is a great place to do it. Like I said, Twitter was the birth of hashtags in the beginning. So Twitter is the reason that we all put hashtag everything on everything we have. So yeah, I mean, even their Explore button has a little hashtag because that's how it works the best. You can share videos and posts from your other social media accounts to Twitter as well, and that way you're reaching different audiences with Twitter. Twitter, their whole point is to be like short, snappy, witty, informative. It's just a little bit different. So even as counsel, when we post on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, even if it's all about the same thing, they're just that little bit different. So the wording that we use on each of them will be different. And to find out how to do that, follow other people that do the same thing you do. So find other artists that have the same interests as you or the same media as you, and see what they do. Find one that works really well. Find one that has a lot of followers and that posts a lot, and see how they do it, and really analyze the wording that they use on the different platforms. That'll be really, really helpful. Twitter is a great way to keep up with trends and issues and things like that. And with all social media, but especially Twitter, liking other people means that people like you. Never, I would say never buy likes, never buy engagement, or never, there's even a thing, and I didn't even know this existed till recently, where there's like a follow chain. So I'll follow you, and you follow him, and he'll follow her, and she'll follow blah, blah, and it comes all the way back in circles. And so we all follow each other. Like, you follow the people below you. But it really doesn't mean anything. Like, so what that you have 5,000 followers? If those people aren't engaged with you or aren't then buying your stuff, like, what, you have to decide what the purpose is for you being out in the world and having social media and having a website, all those things. Again, think about your audience. Who is it that you want to engage with your work, and why? What's the point of it? So we'll look at that again a little bit. Cool. So we'll look at that now. Meaningful posting. So what is it that gets you fans and gets you to stand out in crowds of, people wearing white shirts and red bandanas? There's a few things. One is to be really consistent. So consistently posting, doesn't have to be every 10 minutes. Council, we have, in general, 3 spots. It's different for council than it would be for anyone else, but maybe, I don't know. You kind of have to decide what you can sustain, but we also have a team of people who do our posting. So we, in general, have 3 spots a day that we post on. So we will post up to 3 times a day. That's a lot. It's a lot of work. So we don't always post 3 times a day. Sometimes the proverbial hits the fan and we post way more than that. It just depends on what's up. But we try to structure our week so that we post 3 times a day or thereabouts. But again, that takes a team of people. It takes a weekly meeting to discuss what we're posting. It takes other teams who come to us to say, hey, I'm looking for some exposure on a particular subject. Can you tell me a little bit about this? So it takes a lot of work. So don't expect that you're going to come out posting 3 times a day, right? Once a week. Just aim for once a week, and see what you can do. And you can plan it out at the beginning of the month. That's only 4 posts a month if you do once a week. So plan it out at the beginning of the month, schedule your things in, and then it makes it easy. You can walk away for a month and come back to it. So, sorry, just going back to this. Think about all the little things that you can do to get social media success. It's not about one post that thousands of people liked, because that doesn't mean anything. It's about thousands of posts that a few people liked here and there, and that gets you long-term success on social media. Getting real fans, so people who really like your work, this goes back to the fan sharing thing. Getting real fans is the most important thing, because those people will engage with you and keep you going. If you run out of information to post, you just can't figure out what to do, find other people whose work you can share, even if it's another artist or if it's something funny that relates to you. So I wouldn't just, on your brand's page, you don't just share a random cartoon. But if you're a painter and there's a cartoon you find about painting and you think it's hysterical, absolutely post that, because that engages with the people who are interested in what you do. So just making sure that everything is relevant, even if it's not yours. Don't expect results right away. Don't expect it. Give it a few months. So going back to Michelle, I brought up her group, which you can see there. It's called the Beautiful Ordinary Preset for Memory Catchers. And one of the things I love about Michelle is she's very willing to give away trade secrets, if you will. I don't even want to call it that, because I don't feel like she's like hiding it and it's only for special people. She's just happy to talk about how she does stuff, and it works really well for her. She's excellent on social media. It helps that she not only is an amazing photographer, family photographer, but she was an English teacher and she's a poet, and everything she writes is beautiful. So she'll do a post about, these sheets blowing in the wind, but the post isn't, my sheets look so pretty today in the stormy light, and so I took some picture of them. Aren't they amazing? She writes this beautiful prose about nostalgia and growing up, and I mean, I'm sort of making it up because I'm not exactly sure what the caption was on that, but nostalgia and remembering her mother hanging the sheets up and her playing on them when she was a kid and the sheets flapping in her face, and now her own children, turn those sheets into forts, and it's just really, you walk away going, oh, it was so much more than a picture. That's why she's so good at what she does. If you're interested in her work, you can join this. Like I said, you don't have to buy the presets to join it. If you're interested in her photography, and there's a few things that she has posted recently. People have said, like, how do you do this? She posted a really long post about getting your social media right. And a couple of highlights I wanted to point out that she said in these posts. One is, don't talk about you, right? And this is what I said earlier. It's not really about you. It's about your clientele or your fans. So don't talk about you unless it relates to your brand's message, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. Another thing that she's taught everyone. You want people to feel something when they see your stuff. So again, it's not just like, oh, I did some painting today. It's, here's this painting I did, and here's why you should stop for a minute and look at it. Knowing your brand message is really important. Again, I'll get to that in just a second. But it will explain why you do every post that you do. You can use questions, but you'll see a lot of times pages that are just trying to get lots of likes will say things like, which do you like better, Coke or Pepsi? Just so everybody throws their information in, and that gets engagement on the page, but that's not authentic engagement. That's people just trying to get people to make comments on their page, which boosts their profile apparently. But if you can find something that's like a question that's really authentic, often she'll post a color or a black and white photo of the same image and say, I just cannot decide, or crop, which crop do you think is better? And people will start getting into a discussion about it. And the people who are discussing it actually learn something from it, because in the end they walk away seeing other people's opinions and questioning why did I like the black and white over the color? Why did I like that crop better? So they get something out of it instead of just being like, I like Coke because it's the best. I don't know, whatever. Don't want to pick on soft drinks there, but so it's good to use questions, but just make sure it's really meaningful. It's not shallow or inauthentic, because people won't engage with that, or they will, but it won't mean anything. Being human, being vulnerable, being authentic, all of these things are really important, no matter what style or what type of artwork you're doing. Using narrative is something, like I said, that she does really, really well. Another thing is, in her posts, she never tries to sell anyone anything. Even on her, business Facebook page, she hardly ever will say, like, I'm having a sale. Occasionally she'll do a Mother's Day is coming up, I'm offering this, special thing. But she rarely tries to sell you something unless it's something that is good for the person, because her work speaks for her itself. If you like it, you will engage her. I got her work upstairs of my kids. But she says, remember this phrase, givers gain. So if you give, you will get something back. And that's why on this group that she has, she will tell people how she does stuff. She did a post the other day about, she doesn't do portrait photography, but she'll always give a family portrait. She'll always at least take a family portrait when she's at a family's house. And she went through step by step how she poses people to make them look completely not posed. And she wasn't afraid to talk about that with other people, because she's giving that, which means people are going to want more, want to buy more from her. Everything is relevant. Make sure everything is relevant all the time. Oh, the other thing, sorry, I just want to scoot back up to that. So what to say on your pages. She talks a lot about the identity of your brand. So understanding what your brand is, what the belief system of your brand is, and what the values of the brand are. Pretend your brand is your neighbor next door. How would you describe her? You know, she's really funny, she's really bright, she's really bubbly. If that's what your brand is, then make sure that it comes through in everything that you post. So I have some more details about that in the notes that I'll have Stacy send out afterwards. So just quickly, so we can get to some more questions. Paid versus organic reach. Again, it's in the notes, but on Facebook, you can boost a post. Just don't do it. It will get you nowhere. I don't even know why it exists anymore. What they want you to do is turn it into an ad so that you pay for it. But it's actually really valuable to pay, even if it's $50, to put out an ad, because you can target it quite specifically to the type of people that you want to see it. So give it a go. If you've got a Facebook page and you've been thinking about doing an ad, just try it. But try to target it so that you're getting more valuable reach out of it instead of just going to random people. Yeah, cool. Last thing to talk about, I promised you we would talk about some social media management tools. This one that you're looking at right here is Hootsuite, a really common one. There's a free plan, so you can always try it and see if you like it. And if you really, really, really like it and you're a prolific poster, then you can pay for the paid version. But what it is, if you're super organized and you have multiple posts over multiple platforms, then you're going to want something like Hootsuite, where you can write a post and you can send it to different social profiles. So I'll leave it at that, but in the notes of this presentation, when you get them, there's another link to some other social media management tools. Again, there's tons of articles like that. There's no reason why I gave you this one, except for it was one of the top ones that I Googled and it looked pretty good. So yeah, so there are these ways to make it easier for you to make sure that you're consistently posting by using something like Hootsuite, which can help you kind of set it and forget it. But again, don't forget to go back and respond to comments. So that's it. I wanted to make sure that we had about a half an hour, which I think we have 25 minutes left. I'm more than happy for you to type more questions into the chat, and I'll get to them. George has said that Instagram seems to zoom in or crop my images. How do I control the size? Instagram is always, no matter what, a square image. So if your image isn't a 1-to-1 ratio, it will have to crop it. There's no way around that. So what I do is I crop my image before I put it into Instagram. When you first put an image into Instagram, you can use the edit button and move it around. I don't know if I can show you how to do that. I don't know if it'll work on here, but let's give it a go. So, ooh, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Actually, it'll get weird. Let's go to the cat's Instagram. There you go. So I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but we'll give it a try. So if I hit the little plus button to add an image, and that's not even me, but here, there's my kid on a bike. So it's there. It's cropped it to a square already. But when I say next, which takes me to where all my filters are, right? All the filters across the bottom. You can hit edit, and there's this adjust button. So I can move it around. Still going to be a square, but I can change it to the square to be exactly where I want it to be. Or you can, turn it. There's a lot of things you can do in Instagram to make your picture look exactly how you want it to look. Like this picture, when I first put it in, was a bit crooked. Oh, you can't really see it there. There's a fence line at the top. So I'd never want to post it like that. I'd always make sure that the fence was at least straight or the ground was straight. One of those. So you should be able to control the size that way, George. Hopefully that'll help. Come back out of that. What other questions? I love questions, so hit me. Yeah, always a square with Instagram. Facebook has, like, you can put in a portrait or landscape photos. It doesn't seem to care. unless you're using it for that cover photo at the top of your page, that's always going to be landscape, and it's going to be quite a severe ratio. So you just make sure you put it in exactly how you want it. Is the triple posting on Instagram still in vogue? Fee, I'm not really sure. Triple posting on Instagram, as in like putting the same thing up 3 times? Is that it? I might even, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask that question specifically, Fee. Where it sets across on a pattern. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Be sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Where you put 3 photos in, one say typed message, then one's a photo, then one's a typed message. Then the next one's a photo, a typed message, a photo. So it comes up looking patchworked.
Yeah. Look, I thanks for explaining that more. I kind of honestly say I don't really know. I would say that's a stylistic choice that people may have used at one point, and you can still use it. I wouldn't look at that and be like, God, she's so 3 years ago. I think, I think again, it goes back to that, who's your brand and what's your style? And if your style includes that and it works for your brand, maybe the stuff that you're putting in that typed bit is really meaningful, then it would be good to do.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And sort of be consistent about stuff too. Like if you do that once and then you never do it again, people might be like, oh, that's weird. I wonder who posted for her that day. But yeah. The other thing that I didn't mention while everyone else is thinking about their questions, because come on, you got to challenge me a little bit, is things like stories. So you may have seen Instagram and Facebook does stories now. Look, I don't use them only because I'm old school, and I'm not saying that as in like I'm so retro. I'm saying that is I'm like it's hard for me to change new things instead. But it resonates especially with younger audiences, I think, because people my age and older, so I'm 41, so my age and older, like we're collectors of things, right? We always wanted to have records, or, you know, we collected this thing, or we printed out all our photos because you didn't have a choice. Like you didn't have a hard drive to stick them on, you had to print them to get them, and you want to have a little box of photos. We're collectors of things. Kids these days, just to make me sound even older, kids these days, they don't really care. They don't need to save, they don't care if they have an album of music. They don't need a CD or a record to prove that they have a song, because they have YouTube and they just listen to it on there. They don't want to save, like I have so many emails that I just cannot get rid of going back years. I probably have my husband and I, when we were dating, I probably have all of our emails. I think it'd be really pathetic if I looked at them now, but because I just don't want to get rid of stuff like that. But like the younger generations don't care about saving things. That's why Snapchat, they just love it. They like send something, noted, and then it's gone. They don't care about saving all that or having a record of it. So I feel like, it's just me, but I feel like that's where Instagram and Facebook stories have come from. It's like, it's something I don't need to keep on my permanent record, if you will, but I want to make sure that everybody sees it. Sometimes people post stuff on their stories and I'm like, oh, I don't think you wanted to put that there. So it's sort of more of a, like a short term, it'll stay on there for a day, or it'll stay on there for X amount of time. So people who follow you will see it as part of your like short-term stories, but you maybe don't want to keep it in your permanent record. It's not like you want it to be a record of the thing. It might just be like hanging out with so-and-so, doing some art today, and then that's it. Like it stays up for a day and then it's gone because it's not relevant anymore. Yeah. On Instagram, when you select a photo from a gallery, you get the option to see the full photo left side of the screen. Yeah, so thanks for that, Ian. Yeah, it's true. So if you have put something in there that's bigger, you can see the whole thing, but you just might, like if it's going to crop, you want to be in control of that crop. I'm all about control. I did, as a history of graphic design in my world, You know, there's all these rules, and it's like this with any artwork. Like there's all these rules, like you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, you need to crop here, you need to do this. And all those rules are fine to break. But if you break them, you want to make sure that it's really clear that you did it on purpose. Like, I did it that way. It wasn't an accident. I actually intended to do it that way. So that's why I always make sure to crop it exactly where I want it. So I know that Instagram isn't going to show something I didn't want to show. So if he wants to know if you should get followers to engage with a blog. Blogs are interesting because it's like, I think if you're not familiar with the difference between a blog and a website, a blog is like almost like a diary, right? So you put in a post, and then the next day you put in another post, or the next week or the next month or whatever, and they sort of stack up on top of each other. They can be laid out in different ways, but it's, if you have a lot of things to say, blogs are really good. Or if you have a lot of things to show, but I think they're a lot of work. If you love to write, blogs are excellent because you need to keep up with them, and then you need to have something to say in each one. But blogs were sort of precursors to social media, I think. So people aren't used to maybe engaging with them. Yes, you can comment on a blog, but it's not the same as a social media post where people then engage back and forth with each other and with you. So I would see a blog as being a really good way to have a record of work, or to have, like maybe you're doing some instructing. So you might have little lessons or how-to videos or how-to posts. So that would be really good because they can also be categorized with hashtags and people can look through them. And they usually sit on your website. So a section of your website, just going back to my dad, right? He writes this old car column, and he's pretty good. I mean, my dad has a lot to say. That's where I got it from. But his website was, you know, like some bits about him, some bits about his background, some bits about cars, and then there was a blog, and the blog was all his articles stuck together. So you could search for Cadillac, or you could search for Ford, and you could find all the things he'd written about that. So that was a really good way to do it. But people didn't really interact with it. They could leave comments, but yeah, it didn't really interact too much. Like an art journal. Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question as I rambled on a little bit more. So while other people are thinking of questions, I'll just go back to what we said at the beginning, that Stacy mentioned that I'll be on Friday for our little tea station session, which will be a little more, I don't know, a little less formal. So it won't just be me yakking to a computer screen in a spare bedroom. But you can ask me more specific questions about things. So I would challenge you over the next few days, if you plan to come to that session and you want to ask some things, I would say get into your social media or get into your website, or if you don't have one and you want to start one, just give it a go and start it. And then over the next few days, you might come up with some questions that you want to ask that I'll either answer or say I don't know and try to find a place to point you. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. I'll stick around. I'm here all week. I'm here for another 15 minutes technically, so feel free to ask any questions that you want. Otherwise, yes, like Stacy said, we'll send out the PDF of this with my notes in the notes section, which maybe they're extensive and maybe they're not helpful, but I think they should be helpful enough. So thank you. Thanks for hanging out tonight.